Solving systems using inverse matrices, that's a three-step process. It will take a while to do each step. First step is kind of easy. You're going to rewrite the system using matrices. That's pretty fast. Second step, find the inverse of the coefficient matrix. That's what we just did. And the third step, multiply by the constant matrix. We learned how to multiply matrices, so there's nothing different there. The things that we're going to multiply, we're going to take the inverse that we just found and the constant matrix. So let's give you an example here. Solve the system. We have 2x plus 7y equals negative 3. 3x minus 8y equals negative 23. First thing I need to do is rewrite the system. So my coefficients, my 2, 7, 3, negative 8. My variables, x and y. And my constants, remember, are over here. So my constants, negative 3 and negative 23. So that's the easy part. Step 2, find the inverse. Again, we know how to do that. Multiply the 2 and the negative 8. We get negative 16. Multiply the 3 and the 7, get 21. And you're going to subtract. When we do that, we get negative 37, which we put down here, and don't forget about the 1 that has to go on top. The next part about finding the inverse is where we change the matrix. So if you recall, finding the inverse, these two numbers switch places. I have the negative 8 and the 2. These two numbers, the 7 and the 3, change signs. So the positive 7 is going to become negative, and the positive 3 is going to also become negative. Normally I would tell you to multiply by that number right there, the 1 over negative 37. But when we're doing this process, I'm actually going to have you hold off. So wait on that multiplication there. The inverse that we just found, we're going to multiply that by the constants. Multiplying matrices, top row, first column, the negative 8 times the negative 3. And we also have negative 7 times negative 23. When we add those together, we get 185. Second row, we take the negative 3 times the negative 3 and 2 times negative 23. When we add those together, we get negative 37. Now is when we're going to want to multiply in by this number right here. If you recall, if we've got a 1 up here, then that's the same as dividing by that number down there. So, and don't forget about the negative. So 185 divided by negative 37 will give me negative 5. And negative 37 divided by negative 37 will give me a positive 1. This variable matrix had the x on top and the y on the bottom. Well, that's something that's important to remember. When we have our answer, this 5 and 1, the number on the top is going to be the x value. If you see that, the number on the bottom is going to be the y value. So our final answer, negative 5, 1. The x is negative 5, the y is 1. So let's do a couple examples. We want to solve the matrix equation. First thing we need is the coefficient matrix. I actually gave that to you, 2, -3, 1, 1. We have to find the inverse. So multiply, multiply, and subtract. 2 subtract a -3. Remember, when you're subtracting a negative, you're adding, so you have 5. The 1 has to go on top. This number, the 2 and the 1, they have to switch places, so the 1 is going to go on top and the 2 on the bottom. The other two numbers, the -3 and the 1, they have to change signs, so it's going to become +3 and a -1. We have our inverse matrix now, and we're going to take that and multiply by our constant matrix. So the 1/5, we're going to wait to multiply that. 1, 3, -1, 2. Our constant matrix is 1, 3. Still got that 1/5. Okay. Matrix multiplication, rows and columns. So I have the 1 times the 1 and the 3 times the 3. 1 plus 9 is 10. The second row, I have -1 times 1, which is -1. 2 times 3 is 6. Add those together, I get 5. Last step, we've got the 1 on top, so that means I can divide by 5. 10 divided by 5 gives you 2. 5 divided by 5 gives you 1. And your answer is the 0.21. Let's do another example. We need the coefficient matrix, -1, -1, 2, 5. We need the inverse, so -1 times 5. We're going to subtract 2 times -1. Subtracting a negative is the same as adding a positive. We get -3, and the 1 has to go on top. This 1 and this 5 have to change places. This -1 and this 2 have to change signs. I'm going to take the inverse that I just found and multiply by the constants. 8, -31. I'm going to take the top row times the column. Five times 8 is 40. 1 times a -31 is -31. And if I add those together, I get 9. Second row, I have -2 times 8. -1 times -31. And if I add those together, I get 15. I'm going to divide the 9 and the 15 by -3, gives me -3 and -5. Example 8, I'm going to have you do on your own. The same thing with example 9. Do this one on your own. Pause the video, work it out. If you have questions, let me know in class. Example 10, doing exactly the same thing. It's just I didn't write out the stuff for you. So we still need the coefficient matrix. 1, 1, 2, negative 3. So 1, 1, 2, negative 3. We need the inverse. You multiply the negative 3 times the 1, and 2 times 1, and subtract, and put a 1 on top. The 1 and the negative 3 change places. The 1 and the 2 change signs. Now we're going to multiply. Take the matrix that we just found, multiply by the constants, which are 1 and 12. Rows, columns. Negative 3 times 1 is negative 3. Negative 1 times 12 is negative 12. If I add those together, I get negative 15. Second row, negative 2 times 1, and 1 times 12. Added, I get 10. Divide by negative 5, I get positive 3 and negative 2. Okay, I'm going to have you work example 11 and 12 on your own. Again, if you have questions, I'm going to have you bring them to me in class. And that's it for section 4.4.